Welcome to Setting the Stage. I'm Brook Savage. This weekend is Celebrate Lake Mary, and Sister Hazel will be there. Today we have Mark Trojanowski joining us. He's the drummer of the band. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great.
Yes,
Kind
so
of waiting for winter to end, but other than that, I'm great.
yes, I agree, especially as a Floridian. So the first question I always ask is, how did you get into performing?
I think myself, both of my uncles played drums, and I kind of wanted to play for a while, and my parents weren't sure about it. And then one Christmas when I was 10, we were out at one of my uncle's house, and he had a bunch of drum sets in the basement, and I spent all day down there, and both my uncles told my parents you could take him for lessons, and so I started that January and never stopped.
Wow, I love that. My dad is also a drummer and my brother in law, so I definitely get that. My next question is Sister Hazel is from Gainesville. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about how you guys got started?
Sure. Well, I think originally Kim Block and Andrew Copeland were doing a duo gig together, and Ken, for years was also doing original bands, but they were playing covers as a duo. And then around 1993, 94, Ken really wanted to start another original project, and so he had put a flyer up, and Jet, our bass player, had answered that. And at the time, he was gonna put an original band together, and Andrew kind of morphed into that with Jet, and they had a different guitar player and drummer at that point up until 95. And then at that point I kind of came into the band, and then January of 96 Ryan came in, and it's been the same five guys ever since. The four of them had gone to the University of Florida, so there was some connections with several of them and knowing some people. And I had gone to music school out at North Texas State, and another friend of mine that went to UF and was in Gainesville knew them and had told me that they were looking for a drummer, and so that's kind of how I came into that fold.
So when you were joining the band, like what point in your life were you at? Were you like in high school and early 20s?
I had just graduated college and had just finished about 9 months working on a cruise ship, performing. I was getting ready to move to LA or Nashville at the time, and so had already, my vision was really to kind of go be a side musician for another larger artist, and just sort of fell at me. And I just kind of decided, well, I didn't have the original band kind of in my sights, but it was something that I said, oh, let me give it 12 to 18 months and see what happens, and never look back at that point.
Wow, it's interesting how things always work out. How did you guys come up with the name Sister Hazel?
Well, when Ken was growing up in Gainesville in the 70s and 80s, there he would always see these commercials on TV for Sister Hazel Williams and her rescue mission. She was a female African American minister and would run a soup kitchen and also a homeless shelter and take people in no matter what issues they were kind of going on. And so when he was writing a lot of the early songs for the band, I think that the messages that were in those songs really kind of conveyed to him what she was doing at the time, and so he decided to name the band after her. But at the time, he didn't even know. He had thought she had passed away, but she had just been on missions in Belize and other places. So it was interesting when she came back to Gainesville and saw her name kind of all around town. The two of them, actually sat down at a Perkins one morning to discuss all of it, and she was really appreciative of him wanting to name the band after her. And we had done a bunch of things for her charity over the years, and she just passed away several years ago.
That is incredible. I actually really love that story. It also leads me to my next question in a way. How do you feel as though Florida shaped you guys as a band?
Well, I think Florida, and more specifically Gainesville at the time, I think that around 95, 96, the original music scene in Florida and the Southeast was driving uh, really, really big at the time, because there were a lot of other bands getting signed at the time. Less Than Jake from Gainesville had gotten signed. Four Squirrels had gotten signed, and they had a tragic car accident, and their lead singer died, and their debut record never sort of did what it was supposed to do. But you also had Dave Matthews in the Southeast, and Edwin McCain, and Hootie, and Craven Mellon. So the original music scene was, you could always find clubs to go play in, all the way from, 94 to the early 2000s, plus all the college towns. They were really into live music at that point. And so it kind of went in cycles. I think in the early, around 2005 and a little bit later, a lot of these clubs stopped doing live music and kind of got into dance and EDM and other things. So we were really in a good time, where a lot of colleges and other markets really supported live music. And so we always had places to play all through the Eastern Seaboard and the Southeast specifically. And that's kind of how we built our fan base, was just by touring.
So looking back, what does it mean to you? Like, because I'm sure, just when you were joining the band, you had no idea, like you said, where it would go. So looking back, what does it mean to you now? Like, just how far you guys have come.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I think, kind of tie that with another question. People always ask us, do you get tired of playing All For You? And I think that, that song gave us our national identity. And, I think for us, it's kind of about, like, our music has really impacted so many different people in so many different ways. And so, when you go play, in Idaho, or you go play in North Dakota, or you go play in Chicago, those lyrics and music have tied to people's lives. And so them singing the songs back and singing all the lyrics, is what, really kind of gives us that motivation, as far as like how our music has impacted people.
I definitely agree. I feel like that song is like one that brings back memories for me. It's like one of those songs. So
Yeah, and we have a lot of those kind of songs that, we get lots of emails from fans about, especially Change Your Mind. That song was also used by Tipper and Al Gore for a mental health campaign. And, we get so many stories from people that were going through difficult times in life that heard that song, and that kind of became their song that really got them through stuff. And Champagne High. So, our music, especially our lyrics, have really touched a lot of people. We have another song called This Kind of Love that um, became a wedding song for thousands of people. We always get requests for that song, and people have the sheet music and want us to sign it because it was their wedding song. So, you know, I think a lot of our music really connected with a lot of people, all through, the early 2000s and into 2010, 15, and still today. Now we have fans, that are 12 all the way up until their 50s, because the people that were listening to us in the late 90s, had kids and basically brought the music to them, and now they're fans of the band.
I like that. And how would you say your music has evolved throughout the years?
I think that it's always been the same consistent theme as far as write good songs. The five of us play, when we play together, we make a certain sound that is what Sister Hazel is. I think over the years, a lot of guys have written with other people outside of the band just to expand their songwriting skills. And so, that helps in a way where, you get other people's songwriting skills in there. So I know Drew specifically for years had a writing deal in Nashville, so he wrote with a lot of people up there. And then there were different combinations of in the band with people writing with each other. So it all kind of allowed us to sort of get different musical ideas and different things from songwriting. But when we play together, no matter how the song was written, it's going to have a sound. It's got Ken and Drew's vocals on it, Ryan's slide guitar and electric guitar playing, and then just the rhythm section. So, no matter how the song was written, it's still going to have a Sister Hazel sort of presence to it.
Yeah. And what is your favorite song to perform?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. I think that for me, it's always kind of been Champagne High. It was a song that was written right around the time we were going to get signed with Universal for Somewhere More Familiar, and we were playing it live, and so it didn't make that record, and ended up making the Fortress record. But I'm really proud of that song just from the way it got crafted originally, and then how it got recorded in the studio, and it's always a fun song to play every night as well. So that definitely usually is my favorite song.
Love it. And how do you prepare for a performance as a drummer?
I think a lot of it for me is just over the years making sure that I'm working out, I'm running because it's physically demanding to play 90 minutes and 2 hours sometimes, and so and then also just trying to warm up prior to going on stage on a practice pad, just because as you get older, your hands, just the natural aging process. So I think a lot of it is for drummers. You know, it's just really staying healthy and energetic, and then also mobility becomes a big issue. And so many drummers over the years have had issues with back and hands and other things. So, I think that you just have to kind of stay on top of all of that because it's pretty demanding to play for that amount of time with a lot of energy.
I was about to ask, yeah, like, so what are some extra things you do for those things? Because, not gonna lie, whenever I see a drummer, I'm like, that looks like a serious workout.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting, so a lot of people go, well, you're not really doing that much, but um, sitting is, as I get older, sitting is not, even great for you at that point. So I think that your legs tend to get tighter, your hamstrings get tighter. So, like, yeah, I definitely like to try to do yoga, and I have done a bunch of long distance running and trying to get back into doing that as well. So I think the more flexibility and mobility you have is going to be good, because sitting for long periods of time just is not good for your back, and it's not good for your mobility and hamstrings. And then most of the workout is an upper body workout, but again, like, for me, I was taught at a really younger age, especially when I was in college, that you want to set your drums up into a functionality as if you were a black card dealer, a blackjack dealer, so that everything is in hands real close to you. Because as you start to like stretch out for stuff, that's not a movement that is going to be kind to you over the years. And so, I was fortunate enough to have a teacher that taught me that at a younger age, so that I've always set my drums up very ergonomically so that they were functionally great to play. And, I didn't have a lot of weird kind of injuries, because, a lot of people will set cymbals really high and things far away. And that's just not going to help you as far as like, your conditioning. And also just you might end up, getting strains and other things from that.
Wow, I never thought of that. Um, so, what can people expect from your show this weekend?
I think they can expect, like, we have some new songs that we've released over the last couple months, and we have some songs that are still being released over this next year that are not out yet that we're playing live. So you'll get that. We're always putting music out, and then you're going to get, of course, all of the hits, probably a couple cover songs, and then we kind of play off of the crowd. So sometimes we'll deviate from the set list and do something that either is a fan favorite or someone's requesting a song. But that gets harder and harder to do over the years, because, like, we probably do keep about 40 songs in repertoire that we can play on any given day. But we probably have somewhere like 150 songs. So someone requests something outside of that 40, it's usually we have to see if we remember how to play it, because when you take a record out, you'll play the whole record when you first release a record, and then you find out that there's like 3 or 4 on there that, people like, you want to play. And then when you have 15 or 16 records, it becomes difficult to have all those songs in your repertoire all the time.
I could definitely understand that. What are you excited about when it comes to your visit to Lake Mary?
It's just always fun to play Florida. It's kind of been our home backyard. Great fan base there. They like to travel, so we will definitely pull from the whole Orlando area, maybe even from the Jacksonville, Daytona area to come to the show. And playing outside festivals is always fun too, because you usually have a lot of people show up. So, I think that Florida in general has always been great to this band, and people come out all the time to support us, so we really appreciate that.
Awesome. And I just have to ask because I'm curious, what is going on in the background? Are those some records?
Yeah, those are my records for some of our projects. The Some of Our More Familiar record, and we also had a soundtrack for 10 Things I Hate About You. So we have a gold record for that, and a couple other plaques for #1 songs. So I kind of have that stuff up in my office. But yeah, no, it was good time for us in late '90s, early 2000s, and and our fans have supported us through all these years. And I think that at the time too, the music scene was drastically changing at that point, where Napster had come out, and so the CD was sort of going away when it didn't even know it, and then digital download was being invented by Steve Jobs, and then sooner, right, you had that going, then you basically got into Pandora and Spotify, and so very different these days compared to when we were first putting records out.
Absolutely. And anything else you want to bring up for your Central Florida fans?
I think that they probably know this, but we have our Hazelnut Hang around the corner in August. We just finished a rock boat, so if you want to spend a weekend with a band, you can get on our website and look up the Hazelnut Hang, and it's takes place in Isle of Palms, right outside of Charleston, in August, and it's like a 3 or 4 day event. We play on the beach and play a bunch of different sets, and Hazel songs, cover songs. So it's a really good time, and a lot of our hardcore fans from around the country will travel to that event, just like the rock boat.
That sounds like a really cool event. Well, again, Sister Hazel will be in Lake Mary this weekend. Mark, thank you so much for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me, and you have a good day.
You too.